Hello, lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. I should raise my shirt up so you know there is one. In this week's video, we are going to be talking about how to coordinate your wedding if you don't have a coordinator. And I know if y'all have seen any of my top ranking videos, then you know I absolutely, without a doubt, recommend you have a day of coordinator. And I even have a whole video saying, no, you cannot coordinate your own wedding. None of that changes with this video. None of that changes. You cannot be the person to coordinate your wedding day. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember all of the details that I put into that video. I just remember that it exists, so that's why we're calling attention to it right now, if you guys wanna go check that out. But if you don't have the money for a coordinator, then you don't have the money. And that's what this whole video is going to be about today. So if you can't afford a coordinator and you're trying to figure out how your big day is going to be successful, this video is for you. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. We're gonna put a record scratch moment right here. This is literally why the master plan was created. This is why the master plan exists. If at any point in time during this video you're like, I could use a little help with that, I don't know how to be organized with that, I don't know what that timeline looks like, all of this is in the master plan, all of it, for $29 a month. Every single bit of this information is in there in much greater detail and with templates already in place for you. I can't believe I almost forgot this. For all of you who have already signed up for the master plan, we are doing a bonus call next week on May 18th. Y'all, I know that being budget focused is super, super important to so many of you. So we've decided to, as a one-time freebie bonus for those of you who are signed up for the master plan, I am doing an exclusive budget call just with you guys next week. So if you're on the fence about signing up, I highly recommend that you do so now so you don't miss out on all of the extra stuff we're going to be dropping next week, exclusively to the master plan users. So when it comes to figuring out how to plan and coordinate your own event, there are some things that you will need to do to be organized and prepared that you either find on the internet or you create from scratch yourself, or you would obviously go to a trusted resource like a wedding coordinator to handle these things for you. So again, you either take a template off the internet, you make it up yourself, or you go to a professional. So I took the first one and the last one and smushed them together, where it's all the templates that I use for my actual in-person clients, but we put them in the master plan. But that's basically what this is. It's putting in all of the work and all of the effort before your big day, so by the time it comes around, it goes as seamlessly as possible. And just as a quick reminder, I did not have a coordinator on my wedding day, so I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. I know what I experienced. I also know what it's like to be a coordinator, because that's kind of what I do for a living. Even though it's been a minute since we've done one, I think I still remember what that feels like. So I know the importance of the role that we fulfill, but if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. The first thing you need to do is you're going to need to be very organized. Everyone is coming to you with all of their questions, whether you want them to or not. So making sure that you have all of your details in a single folder on Google Drive, or if you are the paper in hand person, all in one binder. You want to centralize all of your information into one place, so ideally you can pass it off to whomever will be helping to guide you through your wedding day. Because regardless of whether you're hiring a professional coordinator or not, I do highly recommend that you have at least one other spokesperson, someone else to answer questions for you. So for them to know the right answers, they probably need all of your information organized and centralized. So with the master plan, all of the spreadsheets are on one workbook, just on different tabs. So that is extremely convenient to share with somebody because it's all in one place. Plus it's digital, so it's just a matter of sharing that folder with them on Google Drive. The second thing you're gonna need to do is have a plan. You need to figure out where the tables and chairs are going to go. There may be a venue representative that can help you out with that, but my guess is most likely you will be figuring this out on your own. So whether that's you taking a floor plan of the space and drawing in the tables, or you use a website like allseated.com to move tables and chairs around, I do like that option because it's done to scale, which is really convenient, and then it's very easily shared afterwards. You will need to have a plan for your table layout and for your ceremony layout. You also need to have a plan for your timeline. What is your timeline? Who's writing that for you? And this is a great opportunity to bring in the other professionals that you have hired, like your photographer is probably gonna have some great input on a timeline, or they may actually put one together for you. Your catering manager may have a great timeline for the food portion of the event. Your DJ may have a fantastic timeline for dancing. So you may need to get all of those from those different parties and smush them together to make one big mega timeline, which would be fantastic. However, what I will say is those vendors, Dave and I talked about this, and Dave from Amari Productions, him and I talked about this in a video, where basically he was he talks about the timeline perspective as a videographer, and then I shared a caterer's perspective of needing the temperature of food to be correct. Dave's been doing this for a decade, okay? He's been doing wedding videography for a very long time, and he had never considered looking at the timeline from another vendor's perspective. Someone is going to need to have that eagle eye view. So whether that's you bringing all of them together and then again smushing them into the perfect day of timeline to make sure all of these different services are offered, great. Or if that means that you use obviously the template and the master plan, because there are two different timelines in there. One traditional and one with a first look. So where you input like 4 or 5 numbers and it automatically generates your timeline for you. So that's obviously like the simplest way of doing it, is to opt for an option like that. But you can also take from your professional vendors as well. Basically, you need to phone a friend for this one. This is not going to be an easy thing for you to kind of invent from scratch, and you may have to do several drafts. So you may put together one, send it out to all of your vendors, and receive some feedback from them to say, hey, you kind of need to scoot this around, this needs to happen here, we need more time for this. So I would be prepared to have some back and forth and have it not be super, super firmed up unless you're going with a professional resource like the timeline and the master plan. And then there still might be a few tweaks, but probably quite a lot less. You also then need to figure out who is going to be running that for you. That would go to the spokesperson who you've handed your literal or digital notebook over to with all of this information. That's going to be the person that everyone can call on your wedding day. Because if you're wearing a dress, it may not have pockets. You do not want to be the person that people are calling in the middle of your ceremony. You do need to designate that to somebody else. That person can be a guest, or it can be a friend that's volunteering to do this. You do need to give them a little bit of grace here, though, because they are not a professional at this, and or they might get distracted by joining the party that you've invited them to be a part of. As long as you can kind of manage those expectations and understand that they're not going to do everything a traditional coordinator would, you should be fine. The next thing you're going to need to have a plan for is your DIY. Now, we see a lot of this as coordinators. I'm used to having a lot of DIY thrown my way, and I can encourage clients to work through what that list is of what needs to be set up and what needs to be torn down. This is me working you through that. You need to write down a list of all of your DIY items and where they're going to be going. So for me, I was a tish bit extra. I made a legend of my reception space with like a key. Like A stood for guest tables, B stood for Instax camera photo booth, and like they were all marked. And so you can do that. It was very helpful. That meant my phone was blowing up less on my wedding day. I might have gone a little over the top. Just like I said, a tish, it's fine. But you will need to have very clear instructions on where your items are going. Even if you think it's very simple and very straightforward, overly explain it. Now, we don't need paragraphs, but we just need you to be very, very clear, because setup and tear down for a wedding can always feel a little chaotic and a little bit rushed. So the more clear and concise you are about where everything's supposed to go, the better. Pro tip, I've said this in a video before, but I'm gonna say it again. Put a post-it on that item of where it's supposed to go too. So not just the master list, but like, let's say your guest book, put a post-it on it and say just outside cocktail hour space on welcome table, that sort of thing. You're also going to want to organize all of your DIY into distinct boxes. So your welcome table, for your cards basket, for your cards and gift sign, for your guest book, for your pens, for the cup that the pens go in, all of that goes into one container, one box. So whomever's doing that setup for you, it's just one and done. All right. Same can go for your centerpieces. You can have all of the items for table number 8 in one box. Or you can keep your wood rounds in one box and your votives in another box. However that goes, clearly communicate what is supposed to go on each and every table. A great way of doing this would also be to potentially just snap a photo of a pre-done centerpiece, what you want it to look like, and slap it on the side of a box so someone has a very clear template to go off of. Also included in this whole setup teardown situation is where your cards and gifts are going to be going. This is something that traditionally a coordinator would help you navigate. So you will need to have a solid plan. It is always a good idea to scoot them out of the way or get them into a vehicle that can be locked sooner rather than later so they're not sitting out in the open. That is another item that you would want to delegate for somebody to tackle if you do not have a professional coordinator. The last thing that you need to have a plan for is who is going to be queuing what. If you do not have a coordinator, a lot of this responsibility will fall onto your photographer and onto your DJ. It's a good idea to make them aware of this beforehand. We're not saying that this falls under their job description. We're not saying that this is what they're supposed to do. Those are just the two vendors that this typically happens to fall on top of. The responsibility or the burden of making sure your timeline or the queues happen in a timely manner. This is why it helps to be extremely organized beforehand and have a plan for this, so your photographer can just take the photos that you hired them to take, and your DJ can work on making your reception a bomb experience, because that's what you hired them to do too. Because you cannot have your photographer cue you to start walking and be taking photos at the same time. You can't really have them split their time like that. So this extra person, this bonus person, this angel of a human that you've brought along to help with all of these details will also help with the cues. They may not know when to cue you. Again, I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep talking about it because it's freaking awesome, and you guys are going to be so sick and tired of it until you sign up for it and you understand what I'm talking about. This is all broken down in the master plan, including how to run a rehearsal, so like you could literally just pass off sections to whomever is going to coordinate for you. Regardless, you have to have somebody other than you. Another phone number other than yours, another face to answer questions other than you. Someone who can step in to handle a few key details. And they're very key and they're very important. And they're not filled by anyone else traditionally. Here's the particular section for why like it's difficult for a parent to do, because obviously you're going to either have them walking in the processional with you or want them to enjoy the experience. So you don't want your mom standing with you saying, okay, go, and like cueing people, because then she's missing out on the actual ceremony itself. Even if all of the rest of the tasks and responsibilities, you are choosing to have your mom take care of those, this would be the one area that I would say it helps to have a plan to have somebody else take care of this instead of a very important family member that you want to experience the ceremony. This also applies for grand entrance, toasts, and all of the perfunctory dances. So who's cueing those? That does fall really nicely with the DJ. That would be something that would more naturally fall on their shoulders, but it's good to have a plan just in case the wedding party scatters and you need someone to gather them all up so you can do your grand entrance. Just in case your maid of honor went to the bathroom and it's her turn for a toast. Again, someone other than you to go hunt those people down. And then lastly, if you are not gonna have a coordinator, whether because you can't afford to or you've chosen not to have one, you need to be overly communicative. Again, like I said, we don't need novels. We don't need things to be over-explained, but things need to be very, very clear. Because you don't have someone to send out emails for you, you will likely need to be the person sending out the emails. We actually have email templates in the master plan for this exact circumstance. So if you don't have someone sending these out on your behalf and you don't know how to phrase things, this is what you send out. We've got like 2 or 3 of them in there for you. The timeline probably needs to get out to all of your vendors about 2 weeks in advance, 10 to 14 days in advance. But it could be up to a week beforehand as well. So don't panic too much. But someone needs to send that out, and it's probably going to be you. And now that you have this special shiny angel human person that is going to step in and help out with all these coordinating details, you need to communicate that person's information to everybody else. So take all this information, put it together, your timeline, your layout, contact information for your step-in coordinator, and pass that out to all of the pertinent people to make sure that everyone, either if they have a question, it's answered by your documents, or it's answered by the person that you've designated to answer those. Moral of the story, you can absolutely have a wedding without a coordinator. I've said this before, it's possible. It's just gonna be extra work for somebody, for you and for other people involved. And that's okay. As long as you're organized, you have a plan, and you're communicative, this can go seamlessly. You just need to make sure you're prepared. So that's what we have for this week's video, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. I cannot impress this upon you enough. For less than $30 a month, you can get all of the stuff I talked about today. You can just sign on for 1 month and get everything you need out of it, like in a really short time frame. Or if you have like a 2-year engagement, you can have access to it for the entire time. For less than $30 a month, you can get actual professional, real wedding planning support from a real wedding planner. You'll find that link down below. If you haven't done so already, like this video because you like this video, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And until next week, bye guys!